Hello and welcome to another episode of the Minor Issues Podcast. I'm Mark Thornton at the Mises Institute. The premiums paid by retail buyers of gold and silver coins are an all too obvious part of the price, especially with online dealers. The novice might think that it's just another markup designed to rip off the customer, but even some seasoned collectors, referred to as stackers, sometimes think they are getting ripped off. Even some dealers complain of conspiracy. The purpose of this article is to unmask these schemes for what they really are. With the retail purchase of monetary metals, such as gold and silver coins and bars, premiums and discounts are the difference between the retail price and the spot price of the basic metal. The spot price is the current world price as determined in major markets around the world, minute by minute. Most retail buyers just accept the spot price as a fair price based on worldwide competition. There is also the so-called future price, which is a little different. It's the projected spot price in a few months' time. There are also conspiracy theories about how, for example, the silver banks are manipulating this future price of the market. Now, if you have expertise and intimate knowledge of this manipulation, I'd very much like to speak to you. For the analysis here, we will assume that the spot price is competitively determined and just move on. The difference between the spot price and the market price, or the premium, could therefore be considered or called a retail markup that the buyer is willing to pay to get the product from the wholesale market into their pocket in the form that they desire. In other words, very few retail buyers want to buy silver in 25,000 ounce chunks, with most preferring shiny 1 ounce coins with pretty artwork, the name of the mint, its weight, and its purity. The buyer's willingness to pay is based on their preferences for size and shape, assurances of quality, purity, location, as well as visual appeal, etc. These consumer preferences are major factors in determining premiums from the demand side. Minting, refining, transportation, storage, and security, as well as location and ease of exchange, also matter to this accounting from the supply side. One of the biggest expenses is the dealer's cost of capital with gold and silver inventory. The entrepreneur's uncertainty and profit are laid bare if the dealer buys, for example, 100 ounces at $3,500 spot per ounce, expecting to sell at $3,605 per ounce. But what happens if the spot price falls in the meantime to $3,100? That's the dealer's tough luck. Free market competition ensures a fair markup or premium between all buyers and sellers, but it does not guarantee the retail dealer will even get their expenses covered. It also doesn't mean someone will never try to rip you off. Just like other markets, you need to do your homework, shop around, and get recommendations from trusted sources. You should develop relationships with trusted dealers. This is how it works in most markets, except that you are not given a spot price and markup premium separately to help you shop for individual products or shop between dealers. The spread actually helps customers shop better and drives price competition between dealers of very similar products. So what's the conspiracy? Well, one, if you entered the market a few years ago with some extra time and cash, thanks to COVID, and you were smart enough to realize that the government was going to resort to inflation and end up driving up prices, then you might have bought some precious metal coins. One issue at that time was very high premiums. However, you were probably told, and correctly, that you could also sell at the same time coins at a discounted premium price. In other words, for example, if dealers were currently selling a coin at a 10% premium, they might also be willing to buy those same coins at that time for a 5% premium instead of a discount. Now, today, premiums are much, much lower, and the premiums on selling have disappeared in favor of discounts, where you get less than the spot price. Premiums on commemorative coins and numismatic coins are shockingly low, non-existent, or are even selling at a steep discount. Historically, I would say roughly on average, the premium of purchases around 3%, and the discount on selling is about 3%, but that's just an historical average. It also means that you might have paid a 10% premium a few years ago during the retail frenzy, and now if you have to sell a few years later, it's at a discount or even a steep discount. Such a person, however, can take solace in the fact that they have more than doubled their money in terms of the spot price. It still might not seem right unless you understand the market dynamics. A few years ago, during that retail frenzy, large amounts of silver had to be pulled from the huge chunk wholesale market to the bits and pieces retail market for gold and silver coins, undergoing all of the costs associated with it. Mints, including government mints, were overwhelmed with orders. Customers had to deal with shortages, limited inventories, higher prices, or all three. Dealers did too. Running a retail shop is a very skilled endeavor where experience and reputation are valued and large amounts of capital are needed. Mints and retailers tried to expand their own businesses during that time, but that also drove up their costs. There were good reasons why premiums were so high, but everybody had the opportunity to buy something, even though it might have not have been their favorite choice on their preferred terms. A few years later, the market is very different. At today's higher spot prices, the small retail customers are selling, and the big players, including central banks and ETFs, exchange-traded funds, are all the buyers. Big buyers don't want small, pretty coins. They want very large, plain vanilla bars that are too heavy for a person to lift. This means that a great deal of gold and silver have to migrate back from the retail level back to the wholesale level. These buyers are not interested in small coins or their artwork, and they are not interested in paying premiums for artwork or small size units. The market reflects those wishes of both groups of customers, and a lot of those small pieces are being melted down. This means that many low-valued commemorative coins and bars are getting melted down to satisfy the needs of these large buyers. Unfortunately, some beautiful and historic coins and even some valuable collectibles are getting melted down for the spot price alongside Aunt Mary's old silverware. Now, there are always ripoffs and schemes in this world. Most of them are government-based, but there are still some in the marketplace too. They might represent a very teeny fraction of everything that we could buy, but we must remain vigilant, especially when it comes to things we put into our body and the ways in which we hold our wealth. Fortunately, the premiums on precious metal coins is not one of those conspiracies.